What is college golf like? That kind of thing. From your current experiences, and me not knowing this because I got out of the game kind of the same time as you, where do you think college golf is headed, and what are you seeing changing and evolving in the game today?
I mean, where it's headed is definitely a tough question to answer, just especially as you mentioned with, being a set of young eyes, a young perspective on it versus coaches that have been in the industry, been coaching or playing for a longer period of time. It's tough to answer that, but players now are coming in, I think, a lot more prepared golf-wise. Junior golf is much more competitive. We see junior golfers competing in not only, just junior golf events now, a lot more amateur events, top-level amateur events side by side with current college players or even players that have just recently graduated or mid-amateur level.
Sure.
Things like the WAGR are becoming a lot more important, especially for the top tier programs to look at in recruiting versus, just your regular standard junior golf rankings. So the tournaments that they're able to play in now are much more competitive than, surprisingly, even than, when you and I were coming up the ranks and trying to be recruited and all that sort of stuff, let alone
8 years ago.
Right. And that's not too long ago, let alone how drastically it's changed in, call it 15 or 20 years. Player development, as far as what you're able to accomplish at school, at any school, I believe, is rapidly improving. A lot of programs, top to bottom in the rankings, running the whole gamut of teams programs, have a lot more access to the technology of whether it's TrackMan or a swing bite or swing catalyst sort of stuff or flight scope, different technologies like that. V1 that before, even call it 10 years ago, maybe even less time,
right? Those
were few and far between outside of the top, call it 25, top 50, probably even, once you get to top 100, you might not have anybody that has access to that.
Yeah.
So players now that go to what you would classify as your mid-major level schools, programs, now are getting access to better facilities, better technologies. Just coaching in general has advanced quite a bit too, from a golf instruction and the actual college coaching end of it on course, with developments in statistical analysis, whether that's, what GolfStat and BirdieFire do, or, incorporating the new thing, with tour performance with strokes gained, Mark Brody's book and all that really sheds light on how to better gauge your performance than just looking at your standard greens and reg, your fairways hit, your putts made, your 3 putts, what was my scrambling percentage, that sort of stuff. And then, aim point now is huge. Just all these developments that are coming about in instruction and coaching are changing the landscape that, you're starting to see, your alma mater, programs like that really making a charge up the rankings, having a ton of success just because that access, that education, that technology, that their development is rapidly improving throughout the ranks. And it's not just focused on the upper echelon of teams that are your perennial, favorites to contend for the national title.
Sure. So true. And that kind of brings us into that conversation. We're seeing that learning curve is so much shorter these days, whether it's junior golf, whether it's amateur golf, college golf, or even pro golf. The guys are coming out younger, more experienced, more knowledgeable because of, the multitude of things that you just listed there. The aim points, the TrackMans, to say it in a general sense, the technology, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the access it's so easy and so feasible to get these things. At least, you don't have to have TrackMan there every day with you, but just to know your numbers,
mm-hmm.
know why it's happening. to break it down, I used to be able to hit it, or I used to think that I could hit a draw from the front of my stance and a cut from the back of my stance. Now it's a whole another topic for another webinar, but that, as far as TrackMan laws and everything else goes, that's completely opposite.
Right.
So I never had that access to that information. Thus, I tried to figure it out and kind of, what do they call it? Dig it out of the ground yourself.
Right. Secrets in the dirt sort of mentality.
Find it in the dirt.